honest, say, Pastor, are you out of touch? Are you watching even TV? You seeing what's on the news? How dare can you talk about peace in such a terrible context that we have as a whole world? Yes, maybe that's true. If we're talking about peace from a concept, from an idea about everybody put your weapons down, or everybody try to be peaceful from the outside. But I think when we talk about peace as Christian, the word peace means something more deeper and more complicated than just about the absence of war or conflict. And today we have so many rich texts that I feel really torn between either to focus on the part from Isaiah or from Mark, because Mark is my favorite, and I should not say that, but he's my favorite for many things. Because especially if you are interested in history, Mark is the most interesting gospel for all of those, even those who do not believe in Christianity. Those who study history, they go and love Mark for many reasons. One thing, because he is the closest historical records for Christ. So we know that all the Gospels was written later and later. And those who love and worship history, they know the oldest text you have, it's more credibility there when you have it. So Mark actually, this is not from a Christian perspective, that's from a very secular historical one. Maybe it was written like 20 years after Christ. Pastor is telling us that the Gospel was not written at the same moment. Yes, there was an oral tradition, which means the story of Christ was always going on and on and on. But really, as we have a piece from historical fragments, that we have something from the Gospel of Mark that we assume was written 20 years after the death of Christ. So we're talking about 50 AD. The other thing that's good, people who like to read the Gospels, Mark give you the summary. Those who do not like to go into many details, it is the shortest Gospel. If you like to just have Christ's story in a very quick way, he's a very rushing guy. He does not care about details. He's not going to tell you about Jesus is born of this and this and that. You will not have no genealogy. If you go and read Mark, there is no mention at all about the genealogy of Christ. It doesn't mean he does not care about it. But he was the first resource. He's fighting the Jews, trying to tell them, this is the good news, that Christ came and that's it. So all the time he's trying to focus on the idea of Christ being the Messiah who is already here, and he's the Son of God, and that's enough. That's the message that you need to get out. So Mark is really giving us a lot of good ways about how to focus on Christ. The other good things I love about Mark, he's a troublemaker. He started with the story that many of us celebrate today. The first thing, he's talking about another guy that's called John the Baptist. If you are really pro-Christ, that's not a smart approach. Why? Because actually John the Baptist was more famous than Jesus Christ. You like it or not, that's the truth. So think about running for a campaign, and soon we'll go crazy here in America talking about the political campaigns, you know? Is it smart to bring somebody who's really a big competitor to your favorite guys? That's not smart. You just try to ignore the other guy. But really Mark is saying the truth, you know? That's why people who even criticize Christianity, they say one of the stories that's proved that the story is very strong, because they say if Christians have the power to ignore John the Baptist, they will do. Because it's not as smart to highlight this guy. He's a big threat. Here I'm talking from a political and powerful place in the society. John the Baptist is a threat. If you want to run to make Christ like the president of Israel at this time, that's not as smart to mention this guy. But they say because the fact was so clear that the writer of the gospel cannot ignore. If they have a chance to put John the Baptist in the dark, they will do that. But it was so powerful and so strong that they cannot even lie about this guy exists. So it's very interesting that the Mark did not even wait later. All the Gospels wait later to mention John the Baptist. He's opening his Gospel, talking about Christ, and then running to his competitors, John the Baptist. And what a wonderful story about the guys that he said the truth about him, and he started to explain, and instead of putting John the Baptist, kind of like to make him less. He's actually put him in a big spot, and John the Baptist paid back to Christ. This is a wonderful story about those people who really somehow get the privilege of being celebrated by their society or by their church. It's the greatest invitation, is to give this powerful thing when you feel like everybody loves you and everybody thinks that you walk on the water, right? And especially, I don't know if it's true or not, but the problem when you believe it and you see it and you hear it. But then the biggest invitation for all Christians or all believers, what are they doing with this gift? The gift that can be a weapon to destroy you when people recognize you and celebrate you and tell you how good you are. What do you do with this gift? Do you keep it for yourself? Do you feel like, yes, I am walking on the water, I need nobody now? Or really try to it makes you get humble and humbler, and then you just put the light. So everybody's think of John the Baptist under a big spot of light. And it's easy for him to celebrate this moment. It's a big invitation for all humans to celebrate that. But instead of that, he's getting the light that's focused on him. And he say, it's not me, it's this guy. And simply say, yes, I'm grateful that I can be God's bulldozer, I'm the guy that's cleaning. I'm going to make the messy road less messy. And I'm very happy for that. John the Baptist made his mission greater by the way he was not tempted by how people treated him. Do you want to know how much powerful this guy was? He went to the desert, He's a guy, he's wearing very humble clothes. When the gospel is giving description, it's not a pleasant way. He's like a nomad, Somebody that you may be scared if you see him in the desert. Is there something wrong with this guy? His appearance will make you to be scared of him. So when the gospel is giving us this image, and out of that too, he's not using a powerful thing. He's not preaching from the White House or Washington, D.C. He is preaching from somewhere nobody cares, nobody even likes to go. He went far in the desert in the Jordan. If you want to be famous, you go to the temple. You don't go to the desert. You don't go far in the border with the Jordan River. But tells you how powerful he is, that people really admired him and they are willing to walk that far. They felt this guy has something different. He was not officially a priest. He's a guy that's by nature, people loved him and made him a priest. As a hierarchy, he has no power. He has no power at all. He's not the high priest. He's not born out of all this privileged priesthood thing. But he was really just a humble guy, and there is a lot of things that we cannot figure out about his cult and his group, that he belongs to a cult that worshipped and they were living outside in the desert. And in the closest image for us today, to imagine maybe John the Baptist was like a monk in those who know the monasticism system in the Catholic and the Orthodox Church. So they were more living like a secret group outside of society. One reason, because society is full of sin, and we should live away from them. We should eat different, act different, think different. So on one side, it's a good idea that they try to keep themselves clean. On the other side, they are saying they're condemning the society, they're condemning these people who are sinners, and they are doing nothing. John the Baptist was different. He tried to combine both. That when I am in the wilderness, it's my meditation time. It's me to get the energy, to get the power to be clean, but not to say, oh, I am clean and you are not. But say, I am clean to see these people need me, so I go back and preach to them. And in my own pious view, I think that's the best way of understanding monasticism in a modern way, is we don't need to be monks to go out and feel like we are better than nothing and we're better than others, and we are just having 24 hours praying and singing and doing all these things. But what are we doing for others? Even it looks very spiritual practice, it's actually very selfish practice. Because it's good, but for you. Is the Christian message only about doing good things, even when it comes to you're not doing anything wrong? You're just a guy just worshiping God 24 hours and singing and reading the Bible and doing all these things. But what are you doing to others? You are doing all this good, wonderful practice, but on the other side, you are ignoring the needs of those. And in a silent way, you say, I am better than you. I am cleaner than you. But the good practice of Christianity is need to have both. Need to be in and out of the society. The salt needs to be inside the meat to save it from corruption. It doesn't have to be as far as it's away from to be used, it's useless. The light, the powerful of light thing is when you are having a heavy darkness and you turn the light on and you see how the light invade and kick the darkness out. That's our job and that's our mission. Whatever you do, whatever you practice for yourself, it is good to be good for yourself. It is good to feed your soul and spirit. But ask yourself, is this benefiting anybody else beside me? Is anybody benefiting from me when I go outside and when I go on a retreat and sometime for myself? Do I come the same or I come different? Do I have more peace or more resentment? So as we see that last week we talked about waiting in hope instead of waiting without nothing. So we said everybody has to wait. Waiting is a painful human game. If we have a chance, we want to skip the waiting game. But unfortunately, part of our destiny, you may wait for a minute, or a second, or days, or years. But waiting is a very painful thing. And the Advent season is about while you are waiting, what are you doing? While you're waiting for something, are you sitting silently and doing nothing? You feeling crumbled and feeling hopeless? Or you wait with hope, as we talked about that last week? The difference between people who will wait for something with hope or without, that's the word faith. That's what makes you understand that hope is not just a wish, but it's a belief that's shaped by actions. While we are waiting for something to happen, are we being active or not? Are we being really reflecting God's work and God's love in the world? Or no, it's only about me? We are not only here in a church to pray and feel good about ourselves and feel like keep the tradition, but the point is, what do we do behind and after? What a waste of our life if we think this when we come on Sunday for a couple hours and it's just only for ourselves and it's not for others. So what a waste of our time and energy if we are thinking this is only about me to make me comfortable and easy on myself without thinking of those. So the church is not a place to hide from what we should do. A church is a shelter to protect us from being down and lonely. It's a place to protect us from feeling so good or too bad. It's a place that's always pick us up when we are so down. It's a place that knock on your head when you are feeling you are so tall and so high and say, humble yourself, child. Remember that you are not the center of the universe. Remember that who is in charge. The church is not a place to hide. It is a place to nurture, to discipline, to guide, to enrich us. Today, as we are here today, to understand that our way to heaven starts from here. And today, as we are trying to understand how to wait in calm spirit. Waiting is a painful game. How can I maintain my peace while I'm waiting? We know that it is very hard to wait for something and ignore the fact that while I'm waiting, I'm so terrified about what may happen. May I get my result, the things I wish for, or I may get a terrible result as usual. That's what I think about my own life. We are always divided by these ideas. And when you have these voices inside you, how can you be in peace? How can you calm these voices? The voice that's trying to push you forward and the voices that try to push you back. As today, as we see this message about this guy that's later, John the Baptist, I spoke so highly of him. The same guy that spoke so highly, later he will doubt and send his disciple to Christ and say, I don't know how to figure, who are you? Can you imagine? See how big I spoke, how highly I spoke about John the Baptist? But also later in the story, if you keep going, he will send his disciple and ask Christ, I have a hard time now to figure out, who are you? Are you the one? Are you the Messiah? Why? Should we be upset at John the Baptist? We should not. We should know it's part of the human cycle. It's part of the faith, the ups and the downs and the doubts are there. The peace is not about hiding things and act like we are the perfect saints all of our life. The perfect saints is the one that know that we are broken and without God's grace will never make it even for a day. When you have this idea, control your mind, it's okay. I do not want to do mistakes, but I'm not going to be destroyed by my mistakes. I know that I will do mistakes. I do not wish to do mistakes. So when you have this idea is controlling your mind and your heart, you will walk in peace. You will find the way. You know, people finding a harder time not to accept God's forgiveness, to accept self-forgiveness. This is our biggest enemy and our biggest struggle, is really to be gentle sometimes with ourselves. And this is what we can do. The same guy that I spoke so highly today about him, and I admire him, and I love the character of John the Baptist. But at the same time, he's the same guy. He acted like he has no clue. He lost it. I thought you were the guy. Now I have no idea. Are you? Which is reflecting a sense of doubt, a sense of need, a sense of that cycle that we can be, on one day we can be on the clouds, on the other day we are not. And one day we can speak so nicely and so perfectly and feel like the pieces coming together. And there are other days where we feel like fragments and feel life is like just pieces that we cannot bring together. That's truth. This is truth about life. We should not be terrified by this truth, but we should be knowing that God is in charge. And if you believe this way, then God will take care of you. And we'll close this, how to be really a good maker of peace. About a story that's really a few years ago, I was so amazed when Pope Francis visited Turkey. I know he visits many places in the world, but as somebody like me who love history and have some knowledge a little bit about history, I know this place is not a fun place for the top Christian leader to go to. Turkey is a reminder of many bad things for the ancient Christendom. So when I see Pope Francis, he's still officially the top Christian leader of the Catholic Church, visiting Turkey in a very humble way, because I know Turkey used to be the center of the eastern side of Christianity. And when he went and visited Istanbul, I don't know how many of you heard about it or what, this is the capital. But before that, it was the Constantinople. So as a Catholic leader, when I go, I remember this used to be my city. This used to be my seat here in the east. So when he went to Constantinople, which means the word is the city of Constantine, the first emperor who converted to Christianity. And when he did that, he was trying to make another Rome in the east. At this time, Christianity was all over, in Europe and the Middle East and all over. So he said, we have Rome in the west. Okay, we are good. On the European side, we're established. We have Rome. We control Rome politically, religiously, we are good. How do we run the empire? We need another system, but with this Eastern, Middle Eastern, out-of-control people, we need to have some kind of different base there. So that was more political, I think, more than religious, to create another Rome on the eastern side. And that was Constantinople, which is today called Istanbul. And it was the biggest famous church that's called Hagia Sophia. That's now is a big mosque. So first, I was surprised that he went to Turkey. Second, that he insisted to go and visit. And when you go and visit Hagia Sophia, it's a mosque day. You see Muslim people worshiping that. But you will go and see all the icons still still there. You will see the history is still visible, is still crying and telling you, I was here, I was here. So I'm saying all of that not to put any anger against, but I'm just saying that as a great example of a guy, this will be the last place he will be interested to visit on earth. It's reminding you of what you lost. It's reminding you of what you used to have. But instead of that, he actually went, and he insisted to go and visit Hagia Sophia. And he was there, and he enjoyed it. And I think by doing that, he was trying to make peace with things that we used to fight, we used to kill each other over whatever things, religion, race, political views, whatever. But he said, I'm going to visit our history in a way to find a new way that we can live together. We try to kill each other. We try to get rid of each other. We try to convert each other. We did it here in America. Don't forget, we try to do that to each other here, right? So this is the story of human being. If they left to their own angry ambition, they will keep doing that. But Christ's peace is trying to say there is a different way. When John the Baptist is making a way, he says there is a new philosophy of making peace. There is a new philosophy of living together. It's not the only option that I have to get rid of you so I can have some fake peace. There's maybe another option that could find a way we can live together. We can accept each other's differences and create a mosaic instead of having one face, one image, one view. Amen?